Well, hello again. It's Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. Sure, I'm proud to be back with you. Remember now that this excerpt right here, we're in Proverbs chapter 18. We have done 3 of these, and we're down now to the 4th verse. And in the 4th verse, it said, "The words of a man's mouth are as deep water, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook." Now that's a man the one that has knowledge, has understanding, and has wisdom. He can be a wellspring of water. Now I'd like to be deep water. Wouldn't you like to be deep water? Have you ever dove into a pond before thinking, well, this is deep? I'll dive in. You just dove in, you hit your head on the bottom. Many people have been killed diving into water. They didn't know how deep it was, and it was shallow, and they broke their neck. Now, if somebody dives into the water that I have, I would like it to be deep water. I would like it to have some understanding to it, and I would like it to have some wisdom to it. And not only that, I'd like it to be running water, to be a wellspring of water. I had a young man in a Sunday school class the other day. He said, "Brother Peter, what's a wellspring?" Back when I was a child, we had a wellspring in our town. The water ran out of that spring constantly, and it was deep. You could go down there and look down in it. It was about 9 feet deep, and it looked like you could touch bottom with your finger because it was so clean and pure. And that water ran over that spring every day and night, 24 hours a day, 365 days you get by the way. It still is. I can go down there today after 60 years. I was 8 years old when I drank water from it, and I'm 68 now, and I can go to the same spring today, right now, and draw fresh water from that spring. And it's pure water. It is the best water you ever drank in your life. And then right down the road from where I live here in Georgia, there's a place called Pine Mountain. There's a spring down there, 2 or 3 of them, that come out of the mountain, and they're well springs, and they just run continually. There's no force, no fight, no fuss, no mess, no nothing. It just gives up itself and runs freely. That's what I want. I want a spring that runs freely with no problem, which, by the way, is the opposite of the man that we saw up here, that was a contemptuous man with reproach and with ultimately shame. He had shame on his life, and he had sorrow in his life, and he was all the time being in punishment. He was all the time being in dishonor, all the time being in discretion, all the time he was vexing his righteous soul, or a soul, every day. Perhaps he didn't have a righteous soul because he never gave it to the Lord, so his soul ain't righteous yet. And like the chaff, and when the wind blows on it, the wind blows the chaff away. And this guy that's wicked and contempt like that, he's like blown in the wind. Every way the wind blows, that's the way he goes. And he ends up in trouble constantly. Do you have any friends like that? You know, I'm saved and I'm trying to follow wisdom and everything, but I do have some friends like that. But they're more acquaintances, I guess, than they are friends. But the reason I am befriended them is I'm trying to impart unto them some wisdom. But they don't really want it. They don't care about it. They're going to do what they're going to do, and that's what they're going to do. And you're not going to help them. They've decided and made up their mind. They're not going to follow the Lord. They're not going to follow anything else. There's wisdom. So that's where they are. Now, I want to be that wellspring of water with great sayings, like deep water and a gushing torrent that runs over. And I don't want to permit things to get in my way so that I can't be the fresh water I need to be. Do you know how much poison it would take to ruin a nice, tall, cold pitcher of ice water? Do you know how much poison it would take to ruin that pitcher of water? 1 drop. 1 drop in that pitcher ruins the whole pitcher. You would not dare drink any of that water if there was a drop of poison in that 1 gallon pitcher you've got. So we got to be careful. If we're going to be living water and running water and fresh water and water that springs over, a wellspring of water, we've got to keep these things out of our life. Those 3 things we talked about: contempt and dishonor and reproach. Remember them 3 brothers: contempt, dishonor, and reproach. They always live together. They stay together. They fly together. Birds of a feather that fly together. So stay away from them. Now let's look again at our verse that we're in, 18:4. Deep water, not obscure and not hidden, but flowing. We're not obscure water and we're not hidden water, but we're flowing water. And we can be still water, like the sheep that come up to drink in the pasture in Psalm 23. That by still water they come up and they drink. I don't think you're going to get a sheep, from what I understand and read about them, to go to rushing water, to a torrent of water. They're not going to go to it. They're not going to go where there's rushing water. They're scared to death of it. If they should get wet enough so that they fall over upside down, they can't get turned over, righted right side up. Or if they fall in the water, they can't swim, they drown. They just get drowned because they just bog for a few minutes, and then if the water ever gets into their fur, they can't get it out. I've had people say to me when I was talking about sheep, they said, what do the sheep do when it's raining? Well, they got oily fur and the water just runs off when it rains. But that's different than getting put in the water. Totally different. Now, a wellspring of wisdom. A wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. I want to be a well stream of wisdom, like a flowing brook. First thing I had to do is what we said back there in the first excerpt we did, was I got to get in the knowledge. I got to get in the book. I got to get in the book and get knowledge. With that knowledge, I've got to get understanding. And with that understanding, I've got to get wisdom. Wisdom comes along with that. Now let's look at another thing. We need to be clear water. Clear, not muddy water, not murked up with the things of the world, not muddy with the things of the world, not muddy with the ways of the world, not muddy with the way the world does, but clean water. And you can see through, like that spring I was talking about, 9 feet deep, but it looks like you can take your finger and touch the bottom. Nice, good, clean, clear water. And that's what we need to be. Something that somebody would want to drink of. And that wellspring and that flowing brook and that clear water. The very clear water. Now, Jesus talks about being clear water in Psalm 78 and 2. He talked about Psalm 78, that's 68. Now, 78 is 10 more over. I was at it and dropped it. And this is how you get this wisdom. This is how you get this knowledge. Walking through the book. How did I know to go to Psalm 78 and 2? You know how I knew? It said at the end of that proverb to go look there and see what it says. So that's what I'm doing. Now, in there it says, I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old. He's saying that he can open his mouth in a parable, and he can say the dark sayings of old. And why can he? Because he dug them out, because he knows them, because he learned them, because he got understanding of them, because he got wisdom to be able to say what they say. Now we're going back over to our Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 4. And he's saying here, all right, Now we have that knowledge, that truth